All right, I will call this meeting of the Senate Judiciary Committee to order. And will the esteemed secretary please take the roll? Sorry, would you please take the roll? Can we please get the roll call?
Vice Chair Cannizzaro,
She is on her way. Please mark her present when she arrives.
Senator Orenshaw,
Please mark him excused.
Senator Harris,
Here.
Senator Settlemyre, Senator Hansen, Senator Pickard, Chair Scheibel.
I am also here. Thank you so much. All right. We have 4 bills on our agenda today. It is deadline week, but you guys already know that, so I just want to remind everybody that brevity is a virtue. I'm not sure who said it, but I'm saying it now. And so you guys will all have time to present. The committee will have time to ask questions, and then we'll go into testimony. First people in person, then people via Zoom. Each person giving testimony will have 2 minutes. We will have public comment at the end, and during your 2 minutes of testimony, if other people have already said what you want to say, please feel free, empowered even, to say, me too, ditto, I agree, and not to repeat something that has already been said, because we will make sure that it is noted in the record, and we will also read your written testimony if you have submitted such. That being said, we will move into our first hearing of the day, AB 143, whenever you are ready, Assemblywoman Krasner. Does not matter to us.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. For the record, I am Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner, representing State Assembly District 26. I am here to present Assembly Bill 143 for your consideration, which establishes provisions concerning victims of human trafficking. As I walk you through the bill, please refer to the second reprint of the bill posted on Nellis, not the original bill. Human trafficking has been described as a form of modern-day slavery, impacting our most vulnerable populations, and it is a serious problem in Nevada that warrants the full attention of state government. Sex trafficking is a brutal, complex, and widespread crime in which children are used in commercial sex and adults are targeted through forced fraud or coercion to engage in activity against their will. A research brief published by UNLV showed Nevada was tied for 9th in the nation for human trafficking cases reported in 2017. And recently, the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office announced that more human trafficking cases are filed in Nevada in 2020 than in any previous year. This shows that despite recent efforts to address the issue, more needs to be done. Human trafficking comes in many forms and includes involuntary servitude, an individual assuming rights of ownership over another person, pandering, sex trafficking, and forced labor. The most common form of trafficking in Nevada is sex trafficking at 89%, which is significantly higher than the national average of 71%. Assembly Bill 143 will help victims of human trafficking in a more efficient and direct manner by empowering the Division of Child and Family Services in the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services to develop a statewide plan in cooperation with the Nevada Attorney General's Office. More attention will be given to helping victims of human trafficking and providing them with the resources they need. In addition to the development of a statewide plan, with the passage of AB 143, DCFS will be required to form the State of Nevada Human Trafficking Coalition. The statewide coalition on human trafficking will consist of interested parties and stakeholders to assist the division in carrying out its duties. The statewide coalition will allow stakeholders to communicate, collaborate, and coordinate and share information with one another. Additionally, the amended version requires the DCFS to designate a human trafficking specialist inside the Nevada Victims of Crime Compensation Program and to maintain an online directory of services for victims of human trafficking. The amendment also makes the provisions of the plan detailed in the bill discretionary instead of required, which removes the fiscal note placed on the original version of the bill. The goal of the statewide plan will be to address the delivery of services to victims of human trafficking and may include the identification of victims of human trafficking, assisting victims of human trafficking to access governmental benefits and services to which they may be entitled, resources for victims of human trafficking, including medical, psychological, housing, education, job training, childcare, victims' compensation, legal, and other services to victims of human trafficking, developing strategies to increase awareness about human trafficking and the services available to victims, and the establishment and maintenance of community-based services for victims of human trafficking. Finally, the bill requires the administrator of DCFS to periodically review the statewide plan to ensure it complies with the provisions of the bill. Chair Scheibel and committee members, this concludes my presentation. I appreciate your time today, and I would appreciate your support of AB 143, which will improve the lives of human trafficking victims and raise awareness of the issue of human trafficking in Nevada. Thank you.
All right. Are there questions from members of the committee? I don't see any questions from other members. I have a couple of questions. I just want to clarify that this is permissive. It allows for the creation of a task force and a statewide plan, but doesn't require it.
That's correct. The language in the bill is permissive language.
And so what in current law prevents DCFS from creating a task force right now?
There's nothing that I know of that prevents DCFS from creating a statewide coalition currently. Right now we have a coalition for human trafficking in the northern region of the state of Nevada and in the southern region of the state of Nevada, but there's no cooperation, coordination and communication, which I feel would be really beneficial to the entire state as a whole, because there's human trafficking going on in other parts of the state as well as just the north and south.
Sure. Does the bill increase services to victims?
The bill would provide that there has to be resources on a website, and that website will be maintained by the Department of Health and Human Services. And again, that is permissive language, providing that we have money for that, because I know we're in a budget crisis right now. That's why I changed that language, so it is permissive. But this would be access to resources for victims of human trafficking, and I won't reread all of the whole list of what they will be, but those will be made available on a website that's available to all victims of human trafficking throughout the entire state. It also allows for us to apply for federal funds with a statewide coalition. Thank you.
Okay, can you talk about some of the other work that you and stakeholders have been doing that necessitates this bill, how this bill fits into a larger plan to improve our response to human trafficking? Or is it just language that's going to be added to NRS? Who's committed to working on the plan, being on the task force, doing the work to improve our response to human trafficking beyond the very nice language in the bill that is permissive?
Thank you. Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner, for the record. I apologize for not saying that. So the Department of Health and Human Services, I was working together with Mr. Ross Armstrong at the Department of Health and Human Services, and then the Department of Child and Family Services through DHHS. And then I also included the Nevada Attorney General's office, because they do a lot of work with victims of human trafficking as well. And so I thought that by including these parties who all have years of experience in human trafficking issues, those were the best people to move this forward. And then if you're also asking who can be a member of this statewide coalition, I intentionally left that open. I want that to be open because I don't feel like, even though I've brought several bills on human trafficking in my past as a legislator, I don't want to be the person that directs that. I feel that there are people on the Northern Human Trafficking Coalition and the Southern Human Trafficking Coalition and the Department of Health and Human Services at the Nevada Attorney General's office that have more experience than I do in this area, and I want to let them have that flexibility to invite stakeholders as they see fit who would make a positive impact and a positive contribution to the coalition.
And I appreciate that, and I agree. I think that we have a lot of really good actors in this state who are working very hard on human trafficking. I'm struggling a little bit with whether you're saying that these people are not talking to each other right now, they're refusing to work together, they are not collaborating. Is that why the bill is here, or?
No, that's not, Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner for the record. No, that's not why the bill is here. At least one other state, and maybe more, have gone to a model where you have a statewide, I think it's actually more than one, but there was just one that I was researching, have gone to a model where there's a statewide coalition so that all the actors in the entire state are coordinating, collaborating, and communicating with each other on this very important issue.
Okay, this will be my last question because I'm just not understanding, because the bill doesn't mandate that they create the coalition. So if they're not unwilling to do it without the bill, and the bill doesn't require them to do it, why have a bill that says you may do this thing that you were already allowed to do?
It will allow us to apply for federal funds.
There we go. Thank you. And could you give us a little bit more detail on the federal funding that we can get with this tracking task force?
Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner for the record. I don't know the specific names of the monies available, but I am informed that having a statewide coalition does allow the state of Nevada to apply for statewide federal funds for the problem of human trafficking in our state.
And that task force has to be established in statute.
In the other states that have done it, it is, correct.
All right, thank you. Are there questions? Senator Settlemyer.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. One of the reasons I signed on to the bill was the simple fact that a lot of times we hear from these individuals, sadly, that they didn't know that there were resources available, and they had no idea. And so B of this, making sure that there was a website that helped point them to all the different entities that are out there. And I remember I was at a meeting at the governor's room, or Ruvo room, or whatever it's called now, Nevada room, and they had a bunch of people there that were victims, and they had no idea the services that were out there until the organization helped them with that. So I appreciate that aspect of the bill. But in that respect, have you had any negative feedback from any entities that wanted to be into the group, or any negative feedback from them saying, no, we don't want to be included? I was just curious if any of these entities have reached out to you in any way, shape, or form, just out of curiosity.
With the amended portion of the bill, all parties are in support on this bill.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, and did you have other people present to present with you?
Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner for the record. Thank you, Chair Scheibel. Mr. James Dold of Human Rights for Kids is on the line, and he is my co-presenter, as well as Mr. Ross Armstrong from the Department of Health and Human Services. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. All right, sorry. I think we kind of went out of order going with questions, and that's my fault. I didn't realize that we had co-presenters, so we will turn it over now to either Mr. Dold or Mr. Armstrong, and if you have no preference, I will call Mr. Dold first. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the Nevada Senate Judiciary Committee. My name is James Dold, for the record. And I just want to start by thanking Assemblywoman Krasner for carrying and introducing this very important piece of legislation. For a little bit of context, this is a carryover provision from way back in 2013, back when I worked closely with now U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto on her comprehensive overhaul of Nevada's laws to make sure that there was a strong and comprehensive legal framework in place to help law enforcement and state officials combat human trafficking. That was one of the most comprehensive bills that was ever passed in the United States to combat human trafficking, and it followed up on a number of other provisions that were also enacted that year, including Assembly Bill 146 that was sponsored by Assembly Majority Leader at the time, William Horn, who's now retired and termed out of the Nevada Legislature. But he authored that bill, which was termed the Involuntary Servitude of a Minor Bill. And that bill in particular was something that was very important to me personally, and that I worked very closely with the assemblymen on because it criminalized what happened to me as a child. And I wanted to share a little bit about my experiences growing up there in Las Vegas, Nevada, and why that bill was so important and why it's vitally important that Assembly Bill 143 be passed to kind of bookend the efforts that have been made over the past decade to fight human trafficking there in Nevada. Like a lot of victims that get ensnared by human traffickers, what happened to me it's oftentimes very difficult to put into words, especially when I reflect back on how vulnerable I was. Like a lot of child victims, I was a kid who had experienced a lot of adverse childhood experiences and early childhood trauma, including early childhood sexual abuse, which made me particularly vulnerable to an older adult who could prey on both my insecurities as well as my vulnerabilities from what had happened to me. I had been a child abuse victim when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I carried with me a lot of shame and guilt from that. And when I finally built up the courage to tell my mother what happened to me, she didn't respond in the way that I felt like I needed her to, and in part because it was somebody else in our family who had done it to me. And I think she really struggled with how to respond to that. But unfortunately for a 12-year-old boy who had carried this around for so long, you don't really see the world in terms of the difficulties that others may have, but you see it in black and white. And for me, the lack of care and regard for what I had experienced was kind of a slap in the face. And so, you fast forward a couple of years, and it was the summer after my 7th grade year. I had joined Boy Scouts of America through Christian Life Community Church, which was a church that used to be in the Commercial Center, for those that are familiar with the Las Vegas Valley area. And it was a Boy Scout fundraiser. And that's where I met the mother of another child in my Boy Scout troop. And like a lot of skilled predators, I had no idea that she was a pedophile. And because I, didn't have the support that I needed at home, it became very easy for her to ingratiate herself into my life. And it started off like any other grooming process does. It started off with her buying me gifts and taking me to movies and slowly building trust over time. And that trust, I, over time, started to tell her what had happened to me. And the anger and the resentment that I had toward my mother and my parents. And she told me what I needed to hear, right? That what happened to me was horrible, that she would never let something like that happen to me, let alone let somebody like that, reside in her house. And so, through that process, I just grew closer and closer. And then over the next several months, she exploited that relationship and the trust that I had given her, and started to sexually abuse me. And through that process, over the course of the next several months, I began to develop what clinicians call a traumatic bond. And what a traumatic bond is, for those that don't know, is it's a dysfunctional attachment that occurs, that essentially this very strong bond that a victim feels to their abuser. It's oftentimes found in exploitative cults. It's found in domestic violence situations, or in a lot of cases with child trafficking victims who have been abused and neglected and harmed by their abusers, and now feel this misplaced sense of loyalty, if you will, to that person. And of course, the trauma bond is accompanied by cycles of violence. And so for me, that was a multitude of things. That was emotional violence. It was sort of belittling me, the tearing me down, through the denigration, like calling me horrible names, insulting the way that I looked, insulting me in a variety of different ways. It was accompanied by physical abuse at times, including domestic violence. And it was accompanied by this ongoing abusive sexual relationship which I thought at the time was something that I wanted, right? Even though I was a 13, 14-year-old boy, this was something that I felt that I loved this person. I felt that she loved me, and that she had my best interest in mind, and that somehow this was going to be some sort of like romantic fairy tale. And it sounds so strange to say that, but oftentimes that's how a lot of these trafficking situations involving children occur. There's this misinformation, I think, that exists out there where a lot of people have this idea of taken, or these kids being kidnapped off the streets. Nothing could be further from the truth. Oftentimes it's people that the child knows. It's this this sort of lover boy or lover girl syndrome where these skilled child predators prey on the insecurities of vulnerable children, begin to sexualize the relationship. And through that process, these trauma bonds are formed. And so for me, over time, as this traumatic bond formed, I became closer to her. I eventually ran away from my house, from where I was living with my parents, and moved into this home across town, where, again, the abuse just continued to escalate. And every time that it did, for me, I came to this place of trying to figure out what it was that I was doing wrong, because no matter what was happening, and even though I was just a child, my mind automatically went to, what do I need to do to get back in this person's good graces? What do I need to do in order to show her that I care and love her? And it was through that process that I became willing to do anything, and I mean anything, that she asked of me. And that's why I left my home. It's why I moved in with this other family. And it's why whenever I was asked or told to do something, I did. And so that meant taking care of children, babysitting, cooking, cleaning, while other kids my age in 8th and 9th grade were, out playing sports or chasing girls or boys their age. I was going home every day after school and living in this perpetual hell of this emotional abuse, this gaslighting, this physical and sexual violence that was occurring to me. And all the while being belittled while I was performing what were otherwise be considered these household chores. And now that we have so much more knowledge and information about what traumatic bonding is, and how most human trafficking situations occur, I was able to slowly break away from that traumatic bond over time, and eventually move back in with my parents. And as I went on to finish high school and graduate from college and eventually go to law school, I started working in the anti-human trafficking space at an organization called Polaris Project. And that's where I really began to sort of put the pieces of what happened to me together, to fully understand that, what happened to me wasn't just, this domestic violence situation. It wasn't just sexual abuse. It wasn't just this. It was also this form of human trafficking, because of this exploitative nature of what was happening to me, and this bond that I had being used to exploit me for labor or services. And I was in that situation for a little under 2 years before I was able to eventually develop the strength I needed to be able to escape that situation, thanks in large part to coaches I had in football and wrestling in high school. And really being able to throw myself into my studies and kind of break away slowly over time. It wasn't just sort of a one cutoff, but it was sort of, slowly removing myself more and more from that situation, and eventually from my abuser's grasp. But thankfully, like I said, in 2013, I worked closely with Assemblyman Horn to pass AB 146 to criminalize the involuntary servitude of a minor, to make sure that this process of grooming that results in traumatic bonds for children, where they're exploited for labor or services like the situation I was in, is criminalized in Nevada. But like I mentioned earlier, the one part of this that was left out at that time was the inclusion of the development of a statewide plan for the delivery of services to victims and survivors, to make sure that there was this statewide coalition that was functioning between Northern and Southern Nevada, to bring all of the different stakeholders together to make sure that there was this comprehensive response in place. And I can't begin to express how important that is, particularly because of how difficult it is for victims to self-identify. You know, oftentimes, like, we don't sit there in those situations thinking, oh, I'm a victim of X, Y, or Z. It's only in hindsight after the fact, and oftentimes for so many children, you know, you don't identify until, you know, the years, decades, you know, sometimes never, in part because, you know, you're never identified by others and you never put that together in your mind. And so by having this plan in place for the delivery of services to help different stakeholders, whether it's NGO or government entities, be able to better identify survivors in Nevada, this is going to result in just a more comprehensive legal framework to combat human trafficking. And so it's against that backdrop that I would strongly urge this committee to pass this provision to kind of bookend the work that's been gone on for many years, starting with Assemblyman, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, Assemblyman Hamrick, U.S. Senator Cortez Masto, Assemblyman Horn, and now with Assemblywoman Krasner's bill, along with many, many others. I know I'm leaving out a lot of folks there, but this is a really important bill to make sure that we have this comprehensive framework in place, and I would urge the committee's support, and I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify.
All right, thank you. We're going to go to Mr. Armstrong next, and then we'll circle back around for questions. So if you're ready, Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Ross Armstrong, Administrator for the Division of Child and Family Services. And first, I just wanted to clarify how the division sees what activities are mandatory and which are permissive. So as we read subsection 1 of section 1, we note that the designation of the human trafficking specialist within the VOCA compensation program is mandatory, the online directory of services is mandatory, and then the development of the coalition and the formation of the plan are mandatory. The amendment that helped us remove the fiscal note was in the description of the plan, and that part is permissive in terms of what services are permissive. So that is how the division reads the bill. You might be thinking, why is the Division of Child and Family Services doing this particular activity for victims of human trafficking? And I think I presented before to this group that the Division of Child and Family Services is the largest funder and coordinator of victim services in the state of Nevada. Through our budgetary process this session, the money committees so far have approved a new position within the division that will allow us to establish the Nevada Office of Victim Assistance, which includes both funding mechanisms like our VOCA assistance program, our marriage license funding for domestic violence and sexual violence, and then VOCA compensation is a program we took over last year. The reason why it's helpful to designate someone within the VOCA compensation program as a human trafficking specialist is those particular victims have very different needs. So the VOCA compensation program almost sort of works like insurance, where you submit a bunch of documentation for the economic hit you took as a victim, and then you can get that compensated for through the program. Well, due to the very nature of human trafficking, coming up with some documentation for lost wages or medical or those types of things can be difficult. And so to have someone within our program designated and trained and specialized, this was also something we engaged with the Assemblywoman Krasner on to tweak some of the language so it's clear we didn't need to bring on an additional human trafficking specialist, that we could train someone already on our staff. The state of Nevada has done a lot of great work in the space of human trafficking. A lot of that work is focused on law enforcement and judicial system response, right? Protecting victims from criminal liability, making sure the penalties for buyers and pimps are substantial. This bill, in my mind, really goes towards the part of setting up services for these victims, which victim services in the state has been, I would say we're still in the maturing phase, right? We don't even know where really to talk about victim services, right? When I have a victim service bill as a division of Child and Family Services. I could be in HHS. I could be in Judiciary. I think this one on the other side was in Government Affairs. Victim Services hasn't really found a home in terms of kind of an umbrella group that takes a look and really focuses on it. And so what is great about this bill is that it allows us to put together a plan. And sometimes it's really just a matter of getting the right people to the table to package up services that we already have, say it as part of Medicaid reimbursements or through the Department of or Division of Welfare and Supportive Services, and getting it in the hands of our victim service advocates on the ground so that they can help victims actually connect to those resources. And so I see that being a really big bulk of the work in the plan, is to kind of organize and package up the services that are already available in an easy to digest way for the victim advocates on the ground. I know we spoke about funding, and this may open up avenues of funding. The bill says we got to maximize those resources for the local human trafficking task forces, because those are our boots on the ground, directly helping victims, helping the law enforcement response. And so for us, I just wanted to get that clarification in terms of what we see is mandated by the bill, which is not currently mandated, and really the real true power of a plan that says, let's bring these people together and focus on what services can help address the long-term health and mental health needs and employment needs and housing needs of the people that have been subject to this particular crime. So we've done a good job in Nevada on the law enforcement, judicial response to human trafficking. What this bill really says as we go forward, it's time to put some structure around the actual services side for those victims. We know, as Mr. Dold said, the journey to healing is long, and especially long for these victims. And so if we as a state can help empower the boots on the ground, those local folks, in helping that journey be just a little bit easier, then that is a great achievement of this legislation.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry, I probably should have let you present first because you answered all of my questions. So if anybody else still has questions for Assemblywoman Krasner, Mr. Dold, or Mr. Armstrong, I will entertain them now, and I don't see any questions. So thank you so much for being here with us, and to everybody for your participation. We are going to move to testimony in support of AB 143 now, and it looks like we have some people in the room to give support testimony, so they will be able to go first, and then we will go on to the phones. So whenever you're ready, you'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Kendra Birchie with the Washoe County Public Defender's Office. Thank you, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee for hearing this important bill. I want to thank Assemblywoman Krasner for bringing forward a way to ensure that we are providing services to victims across Nevada. I've had the privilege of serving on the Human Trafficking Task Force for Northern Nevada, and I do believe that it is important to allow for the statewide services. We have unfortunately seen that many of our clients were victims, including victims of human trafficking, before becoming involved in the criminal justice system. We hope that this bill will help break that cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Puro from the Clark County Public Defender's Office. I'd like to echo everything Ms. Birchie said. Thank Mr. Dold for his testimony and Assemblywoman Krasner for bringing this bill forward. I think I've heard Senator Hansen say many times, we've done a lot in this area to increase penalties, but as Director Armstrong said, it's now time to increase services so that we can actually help people get out.
Thank you so much. I don't see anybody else coming to the table in the room, so Mr. Kyle, if we could please go to people on the phones to testify in support of AB 143.
Thank you so much, Chair Scheibel. To testify in support on Assembly Bill 143, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in support on Assembly Bill 143, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 122, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Katie Ryan, K-A-T-I-E-R-Y-A-N, and I'm System Director of Nevada Government Relations for Dignity Health St. Rose Dominican and a member of the Nevada Policy Council on Human Trafficking. I have provided a letter of support to the committee on behalf of St. Rose, and I just wanted to thank Assemblywoman Krasner for bringing this bill back for another session. All Nevadans deserve to live a life free of violence, exploitation, and slavery. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last three digits, 199. Please press *6 to unmute yourself. And slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tess Opferman, that's spelled O-P-S-E-R-M-A-N, speaking on behalf of the Nevada Women's Lobby. It is a top priority of the Women's Lobby to support legislation that protects those who are survivors of domestic and sexual violence, including survivors of human trafficking. In Nevada, where we are ranked 9th in the nation for the number of cases of human trafficking, it is critical that we come up with plans to help these survivors access health care, child care, education, job security, and more, and that starts with legislation like AB 143. We need to fortify the safety net we have in place, and this is a strong step in that direction. Thank you so much to Assemblywoman Krasner for bringing this bill forward and for the powerful testimony presented. The Nevada Women's Lobby urges you to pass this bill, and we thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, caller. If you've recently joined us, we are currently on support testimony for Assembly Bill 143. If you'd like to provide support testimony at this time, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 918. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
My name is Erin Wright, E-R-I-N-W-R-I-G-H-T. I'm a survivor of human trafficking, and I support this bill as I live in Carson City, Nevada, and I've been out of the life since 2002, but every day is a struggle. So I believe that this bill would be a wonderful asset to have people who don't know where else to go or don't know where the resources are or who to contact. I receive calls daily from places from across the United States, from other survivor leaders who are calling me and saying, hey, I have somebody in Reno, I have somebody in Carson City, where do you go, where do we send people to? And with this bill, if this bill passes, that would not be a problem. All processes would be there. So I support this bill 100%, and I thank you for having me and hear me as I'm a survivor leader in Carson City, and I was in the life for 15 years. So, and I still struggle every day not to fall back into that and always wondering for resources for later on. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last three digits, 047. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. My name is Lauren Boytel, Lauren Boitel. I'm the chair of the Nevada Policy Council on Human Trafficking. I just want to echo previous support comments and say that statewide collaboration is really important for this issue and continued support of the issue and elevating the issue in the state. We have submitted a letter of support as well and appreciate your attention and support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And if you have recently joined us this afternoon, we are currently on support testimony for Assembly Bill 143. If you'd like to provide support testimony at this time, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. And Chair Scheibel, at this time, there are no more callers to provide support testimony.
All right, thank you so much. We will move to testimony in opposition to AB 143. I don't see anybody coming to the table here in the room, so we will go to the phones, please. Mr. Kyle.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Assembly Bill 143, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on Assembly Bill 143, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. And Chair, at this time, there are no callers to provide opposition testimony.
All right, thank you. We will move to neutral testimony, and I don't see anybody in the room to give neutral testimony, so we will go to the phones for neutral testimony on AB 143.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Assembly Bill 143, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in the neutral standing on Assembly Bill 143, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And Chair, at this time, there are no callers to provide neutral testimony.
All right, thank you so much. I will point the members of the committee to some exhibits that have been uploaded to Nellis. We have some support testimony and neutral testimony in writing there. And as always, I encourage you all to read those. And with that, since there was no opposition testimony, I'm guessing you don't have any closing comments? Or maybe you do. Go ahead.
Just wanted to say thank you, Chair Scheibel and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee for hearing this bill today, and I would appreciate your support.
All right, thank you. I will close the hearing on AB 143, and we are now opening the hearing on AB 251. And whenever you are ready, please begin, Assemblywoman Krasner.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel and Senate Judiciary Committee members. For the record, I am Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner, representing State Assembly District 26. I am pleased to be here today to present Assembly Bill 251 for your consideration. AB 251 will help to address the harsh impact that a child's juvenile record might have on their future success in society. We always talk about giving kids a second chance and a fresh start, but we never really seem to give them one. AB 251, in its amended first reprint, does two things. First, Assembly Bill 251 establishes provisions for a juvenile's record to be automatically sealed at age 18 years old. Currently in Nevada law, juvenile records are automatically sealed at age 21 years old. Second, AB 251 allows someone age 18 or over to petition the court for the expungement or destruction of their juvenile record for any infraction, arrest, or crime that was committed as a child that was equal to a misdemeanor or less. A child's brain is not fully developed until age 22, and they are not able to make logical, informed decisions, especially under stressful situations. Turning to the topic of juvenile records, one commonly held misconception is that once children turn 18, their juvenile records disappear forever and they can go forth with a clean slate. That is wrong. In many instances, that is not the case, and young offenders may face serious consequences and obstacles as a result of their juvenile record. A juvenile adjudication can prevent a young person from receiving financial aid for higher education, admissions to colleges, getting a job, joining the military, or being admitted into certain licensed professions. It can also affect eligibility for public housing, not only for the delinquent minor, but for his or her family as well. In the last 15 years, many state legislatures have included provisions in their juvenile justice statutes to seal, expunge, and implement other confidentiality safeguards for juvenile records. As most of you may know, sealing refers to closing records to the public, but keeping them accessible to court personnel and to law enforcement. In general, the child's record remains open and accessible to law enforcement officers and to prosecutors and sentencing judges for purposes of investigating and prosecuting any future crimes in which the youth may be involved. Expungement, on the other hand, involves the complete physical destruction of a juvenile record. All references to the juvenile's arrest, detention, adjudication, disposition, and probation must be deleted from the files of the court, law enforcement, and any other person or agency that provided services to a child under a court order. An expunged record is to be treated as though it never existed. All states have some sort of procedures that allow juveniles to petition to either seal or expunge their records in certain cases. However, these procedures can be confusing and cumbersome, and it's time that we address this confusion. Our next step as a state is to update our treatment of juvenile records to give kids a fresh start and a second chance. We are working off the first reprint of Assembly Bill 251 on Nellis. And Assembly Bill 251 contains two components. The first component of the bill addresses the sealing of juvenile records. And as I said, currently in Nevada, there is automatic sealing of a child's record at age 21. This bill would change automatic sealing of a child's record to age 18. There would still be judicial review in some instances. Those instances will remain the same as they are in current law. Second, the component of the bill states that after age 18, a youth may petition the court for expungement or destruction of all of their juvenile records for infractions, arrests, or crimes committed as a juvenile that were a misdemeanor or less when committed. In conclusion, now is the time to address the impact that a child's juvenile records can have upon a child's life and a child's future. Just think about it. Your 17-year-old son or daughter who is caught drinking a sip of their first beer can be arrested for a misdemeanor, taken to jail, and will now have a record. At age 18, many kids are applying for college. Currently, on all out-of-state college applications, there's one question that frequently appears. Have you ever been arrested? There's only a space for a yes or no answer. No explanation. It's very competitive getting into college these days, and you can imagine that if the person checks yes, the application will go in the trash can. Making a kid wait until they're 21 years old to seal their record just hurts the kid's future of success in society, getting into college or getting a job. We are the people who make the law in this state. We are the people who can really give kids a fresh start and a second chance. Please join me in supporting AB 251. Thank you, Chair Scheibel and members of the Judiciary Committee for giving me this opportunity to present AB 251 to you today, and I would appreciate your support on this bill. Thank you. My co-presenter is Assistant District Attorney Bridget Duffy, representing the Nevada District Attorney Association. Thank you.
Go ahead whenever you're ready, Ms. Duffy.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. Bridget Duffy, B-R-I-G-I-D, D-U-F-F-Y. I'm used to doing that when I'm on the telephone. I haven't been on Zoom that often. For the record, I am the Chief of the Juvenile Division for the Clark County District Attorney's Office, appearing on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association this afternoon. I appreciate all of the work that went into AB 251 to get to where we are today. To allow children to make a step forward into their young adulthood with a clean record, but maintaining the fact that there are cases that would not close automatically due to either being continued on probation, having active warrants, or what we call writs, more commonly known as warrants. So cases can stay open much longer than 18. And the juvenile court still does have jurisdiction until 21. So we want to make sure that we're not automatically sealing records under certain circumstances. But for those children that have committed misdemeanors and want to move on with their lives and completed their terms and conditions, we should be sealing them quickly and letting them move on. And I am here really for any questions that anyone may have, because I think that the bill really speaks for itself, and Assemblywoman Krasner presented it.
All right, thank you. Do you have anybody else present with you to present or answer questions, Assemblywoman?
No, thank you.
All right then. Do the members of the committee have any questions? I'm not seeing any questions. All right then. We will move on to testimony in support of AB 251. It looks like we have some people present to give support testimony, so please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. John Puro from the Clark County Public Defender's Office. This bill was heavily negotiated. We worked hard to get it to where it is. We'd like to thank Assemblywoman Krasner and Ms. Duffy for helping us get over the hump with this bill. I think this bill will most certainly help children who have made a mistake in the misdemeanor realm move on with their life a little bit faster. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Kendra Birchie with the Washoe County Public Defender's Office. I also want to thank Assemblywoman Krasner. She spent several hours during different, what we would have called woodshed sessions, trying to hash out all the issues to ensure that all parties were on the same page to allow our children, our youth, to have a second chance. So we appreciate her efforts, and I'll ditto what Mr. Puro said, and we support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here in person to give support testimony? All right, then we will move on to anybody calling in to give testimony in support of AB 251.
Thank you, Chair Scheib. To testify in support on Assembly Bill 251, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in support on Assembly Bill 251, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 346. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Thank you very much for your time today. My name is Reverend Michael Willoughby, and my Director for Battleborn Progress in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm going to ditto what everybody else has said in regards to this bill, and will leave you with a very, very simple admonition today. You have the opportunity today to be the people that so many of us needed when we were growing up. And that's an opportunity that you should not take lightly, okay? This is extremely important, and both personally and as an organization, we're proud to be here in support today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits, 130. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christine Saunders. That's CHRISTINESAUNDERS. I'm Policy Director with Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada, here in support of AB 251. We want to thank the Assemblywoman for bringing forward this bill and for proactively reaching out to community leaders for their input. I will also just echo the testimony of those who spoke before me and urge your support of this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits, 695. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Holly Wellborn, HOLLYWELBORN, Policy Director for the ACLU of Nevada, testifying in strong support for this piece of legislation. Thank you, Assemblywoman Krasner, for bringing this forward and for all of your hard work on this bill. It's an incredibly important step toward increasing opportunities for success for our youth. But not only that, it also helps to increase public safety. A research study by Michigan Law found that those who have their records sealed have very little risk, or sealed or expunged, have very little risk of recidivism, and a significant improvement in their income and ability to secure stable employment. This is critical for our youth as they move into adulthood. Again, we thank Assemblywoman Krasner for her leadership, and we encourage your support.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits, 007. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Christina Wildeveld, WILDEVELD. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Scheibel and Assemblywoman Krasner. Thank you for presenting this bill today, and I would just echo support on behalf of NACJ and as a private criminal defense attorney. Thank you, everyone, for working on this.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last three digits, 122. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Again, good afternoon, Chair Scheibel, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Katie Ryan, Katie-Ryan, and I'm the System Director of Nevada Government Relations for Dignity Health St. Rose Dominican and a member of the Nevada Policy Council on Human Trafficking. And just for the sake of brevity, ditto. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And with that, Chair, there are no more callers to provide support testimony at this time.
All right, thank you so much. We will move to testimony in opposition to AB 251. Not seeing anybody present in the room to give such testimony, we will go directly to the phones, please.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel. To testify in opposition on Assembly Bill 251, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on AB 251, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 080. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. My name is Adrian Vieska. That's Adrian, V as in Victor, IESCA, and I'm appearing on behalf of the 8th Judicial District Court in Clark County. We are testifying in limited opposition to the bill and solely regarding Section 4, subsection 5C1, which requires the court to destroy certain court records. Members of the committee should have received an email from Judge Bridget Robb and Judge Rebecca Burton sharing our concerns. If you have not received it, I will work with your committee manager to forward it to all of you. And I apologize to Assemblywoman Krasner for not being able to speak to her about our concerns before today's committee hearing. We are opposed limitedly for 2 reasons. First, modern case management systems for court records are designed to prevent the destruction or erasure of court records. In the 2nd Judicial District, the case management system does not allow for the destruction of documents, and we believe that's also the case in the 8th Judicial District Court. Second, if an individual ever attempted to enforce an expungement order, there would be no proof that such an expungement was ever ordered. We are happy to work with the bill sponsor and suggest using language that mirrors the adoption statute. In this way, the records are protected, and anyone seeking to obtain the records would have a heightened burden in order to do so. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, caller. And with that, Chair, there are no more callers to provide opposition testimony at this time.
All right, thank you. We will move to testimony in neutral on AB 251. There is nobody in the room to give testimony, so we will go to the phones, please.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Assembly Bill 251, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in the neutral standing on Assembly Bill 251, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And Chair, at this time, there are no callers to provide neutral testimony.
All right, thank you. Assemblymember Krasner, do you have any closing remarks?
So I just, Assemblywoman Krasner, for the record, that was the first time I'd ever heard anything from anybody that was not in support of this bill, because as Ms. Duffy said and as Mr. Perot and Ms. Birchie said, we worked for days and weeks and over into months in woodshed meetings, having discussions with all interested parties, including the District Attorney Association, law enforcement, sheriff, police, school police, public defenders, ACLU, so that everybody was in a position of support, including juvenile services in Clark County and juvenile services in Washoe County, with many, many meetings to get this in support. So whatever it takes to make sure it stays in support, I'm certainly willing to do so. And I appreciate your time hearing this bill today, Chair and committee members, and I would urge your support of this important bill. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, I will close the hearing on AB 251, and we will open the hearing on AB 268. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel and Senate Judiciary Committee members. For the record, I am Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner, representing State Assembly District 26. I am here today to present Assembly Bill 268, also referred to as Micaiah's Law. On January 5th, 2020, 18-year-old Micaiah told his mother he wanted to commit suicide. His mother called 911 to ask the police for help because her son was armed, suicidal, and suffered from mental illness. She was worried about her son because he had a history of mental illness and he had told her he wanted to commit suicide. She called the police for help. The police responded, chased his car, and later that night, Micaiah was shot 7 times and died. 6 months later, on June 29th, I was with my own 2 sons when the decision of the district attorney came out concluding that the shooting of 18-year-old Micaiah was justified. My 2 sons and I watched the body cam video footage of the shooting that night on the television news together. Thinking about my own 2 sons, who are about the same age as Micaiah, had a profound impact on me. I wondered if there was a better way to handle this type of situation, and that is where I got the idea to bring this legislation. The goal of this bill is to accomplish 4 things. 1, ensure that every law enforcement agency in the state adopts a written policy regarding the use of force, and these policies are posted on a website if feasible. And that each of these written policies requires that police officers utilize de-escalation techniques, crisis intervention, and other alternatives to force, if feasible. 3, it would require that law enforcement agencies, when feasible, send a peace officer who has been trained in crisis intervention to respond to an incident involving a person who has made suicidal statements. Also, in carrying out his or her duties, a peace officer shall not use deadly force against a person based on the danger that the person poses to himself or herself if a reasonable officer would believe that the person does not pose an imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm to the peace officer or another person. I want to stop here and say that I worked together with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, Las Vegas Metro Police Department, the NAACP, and the ACLU on this legislation before bringing it forward. I have the greatest respect for our law enforcement officers, police, sheriff, highway patrol, and district attorneys who put their lives on the line to protect us and keep us safe every day. Just remember, at 3 a.m. in the morning when someone is breaking into your home, you want to be able to call 911 and have a law enforcement officer come to your rescue. Law enforcement officers do so many good things for our community that go unnoticed. For example, community engagement is a top priority for the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, with programs such as Shop with the Sheriff, Coffee with a Cop, Elementary School Outreach Deputy Program, Sheriff's Office of Community Resource Fairs, and Christmas and July free backpacks for back to school. Las Vegas Metro Police Department also has many community outreach programs such as Hope for Prisoners, First Tuesday, Every 15 Minutes, Explorers, Homeless Outreach Team, and Multicultural Advisory Council, just to name a few. Nevertheless, these programs will not bring 18-year-old Micaiah back. There must have been a different approach that could have been taken on the evening of January 5th, 2020, when law enforcement officers were aware that they were dealing with a person who was mentally disturbed and suicidal. I believe that de-escalation techniques and crisis intervention by trained officers would have yielded a different outcome. There are 2 studies that I found on de-escalation techniques and outcomes. In a study of patients with mental disabilities titled Strategies to De-Escalate Aggressive Behavior in Psychiatric Patients, the study showed that staff training in de-escalation techniques and other interventions to prevent or de-escalate aggressive behavior led to fewer incidents. In another study titled Examining the Impact of Integrating Communications, Assessment, and Tactics, De-Escalation Training for the Louisville Metro Police Department Initial Findings, it was found that de-escalation training run by the Police Executive Research Forum dramatically cut use of force incidents and injuries to citizens and to officers. Not only was there a decline in use of force and citizen injuries, but the biggest decline was actually to officers and officer injuries. In conclusion, my hope is that by putting these de-escalation and crisis intervention policies into law and into action, we can prevent something like this from ever happening again. I want to say thank you to the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, the Washoe County Sheriff's Department, the Attorney General's Office, and the NAACP for their support of this legislation. Chair Scheibel and members of the committee, I appreciate your time today, and I would sincerely appreciate your support on AB 268. I do have some co-presenters with me. The first one is Miss Stephanie McCurry, who is the president of the Reno Sparks NAACP. Thank you.
Ms. McCurry, do you want to come to the table and provide any comments?
Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie McCurry, current president of the Reno Sparks NAACP, Unit 1112. The spelling of my name is Stepphanie, last name Mccury. To Chair Scheibel and the Judiciary Committee members, you have my profound thanks for hearing this bill today. I thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of this bill. I pause for a moment and recognize Susan Klopp, Micaiah Lee's mother, who is here today. I want you to know that the Reno Sparks NAACP stand with you, and as a mother, I stand with you. We, the Reno Sparks NAACP Unit 1112, right to express our support for Assembly Bill 268. To assure full transparency in law enforcement's interactions with the public, this bill requires those agencies throughout the state of Nevada to adopt a written use of force policy. Moreover, it requires law enforcement personnel to undergo crisis intervention training, learning to de-escalation techniques when feasible. Additionally, this training enables officers to interact confidently and professionally with those driven by suicide ideation or who, in the end, attempt suicide, whether by cop or otherwise. As you may know, individuals with mental illness are more likely to have an encounter with law enforcement officers or other first responders than the average citizen. AB 268 offers training in a different kind of force. It equips officers with the ability to communicate expertly and in greater detail with both those who suffer from mental illness and with their families. This is powerful training, a different kind of force. With proper crisis intervention training, law enforcement officers have an extraordinary opportunity to deliver a level of persuasion that can guide persons to a facility for extended care and follow-up treatment. The intention of AB 268 is to avoid loss of life. Recall Micaiah Lee, a young Black man who at the tender age of 18 years old was killed last year by an officer after his mother called 911 dispatch to report that her son was suicidal. In a profession where the fallout often cannot be remedied or altered, passage of AB 268 will demonstrate concern that the state of Nevada has for the mentally ill, for their families, and among these, the officers themselves. We are reminded by law enforcement that officers must first and foremost take control of a scene. To be clear, we support the application of de-escalation techniques in all societal interactions, but especially in marginalized and communities of color. If we, the people of color, Latinx, BIPOC, LGBTQI+, the collective we, accept this as accurate, it then matters even more how officers respond to a crisis, how they respond to our loved ones. It also matters how this distinguished body responds to this bill. We thank Assemblywoman Krasner for proposing such transformative legislation and working together with law enforcement and through legislation. This bill is good groundwork for future legislation to come as we grow in our humanity together. My thanks again to the Senate for your review, your consideration, and hopeful passage of AB 268, better known as the Micah Lee Bill. I thank you for your time and yield the floor.
Thank you so much. Are those all of the presenters? All right, then we will go to questions. Are there questions from members of the committee? Go ahead, Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Assemblywoman Krasner, for bringing the bill. This is obviously something that's been discussed a lot this session. I'm just wondering, I'm looking at Section 3, and I'm trying to understand the verbiage. It says, in carrying out his or her duties, a peace officer shall not use deadly force against a person based on the danger that the person poses to himself or herself, if a reasonable peace officer would believe that the person does not pose an imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm to the peace officer or another person. Can you explain we don't have any of the details of the examples that were given. I don't know if it's safe to assume that the police officer at the time believed that any victim, if we want to use that term, was posing a threat to themselves. But I'm having a hard time envisioning a situation where an officer would believe, and particularly since the reasonable peace officer doesn't exist, right? That's a general term. So if any given peace officer believed that the person didn't pose a risk, don't we have a policy on this already that says that we don't use deadly force if there's no risk?
Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner, for the record. Thank you for your question, Senator Pickard. I did mention it before, but I'm going to say it again. Before I ever put my pen to the paper and submitted anything to the Legislative Council Bureau on this bill, I reached out to the Washoe County Sheriff's Office and the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. They helped me to draft this legislation. This is policy that is already in place at the Las Vegas Metro Police Department and the Washoe County Sheriff's Office.
All right, so it sounds like this bill just codifies the law that's already in place. So the bill doesn't change anything, it just moves it to statute. Is that correct?
Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner, for the record, that is exactly correct. This takes language that is already in place and currently being used by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and the Washoe County Sheriff's Office and codifies it and puts it into law. It does make one change that asks that it also be listed on any website if feasible.
Other questions from members of the committee? All right, I don't see any other questions, so we will go to testimony in support of AB 268. I see we have some people here to testify in person, and we welcome you to the witness table. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
I'm Micah Lee's mom. I'm in support of AB 268. I want to thank the chair and the members of the committee, and thank you, Assemblywoman Krasner, for bringing this bill. The officers knew my son was mentally unstable with a history of mental instability. I told the officers on 911 he was mentally unstable, manic depressive, and bipolar. What the officers did wrong was after my son was located on a median in the middle of McCarran Boulevard, in less than 10 seconds, he was shot and killed. They took no effort to save his life. They behaved as if he was a terrorist about to throw a bomb on a schoolyard full of children. They ran to him, they opened the door, they threw a canine dog on my son, and they shot him in less than 10 seconds. He was not a threat to anybody. His car was disabled. He wanted to harm himself. He did not want to harm anybody else. What the officers should have been trained to do is they should have immediately initiated a tactical plan to contain Micaiah and reduce his anxiety levels and to achieve a safe and peaceful surrender. They should have taken cover behind their police cars and communicated with my son Micaiah from a safe position without aggressive and loud stepping, stomping, and yelling. They cursed at my son and raised his anxiety levels even further than they already were. And they should have initiated a dialogue with Micaiah, talking in a low, calm voice to lessen his anxiety, saying such things as they were there to help. He was in no trouble, everything would be okay, and use an on-scene officer as a negotiator. There was no negotiation. I was less than 5 minutes away when they gunned down my son. Once a dialogue had been initiated and began to issue instructions as this is the way they were to resolve it, there was no pedestrians where my son was. It was only traffic. There's no sidewalks. His car was immobilized. He couldn't have drove anywhere. He broke his axle. He was stunned and disoriented. They should have complimented Micaiah after he had complied with instructions. They should have used verbal tactics to de-escalate this situation. They should have used his family by phone or in person. As I said, I was less than 5 minutes away. I heard the gunfire myself. They should have used a trained crisis negotiator and used less lethal means such as tear gas, tasers, or beanbag rounds. They should have utilized a public address system to talk slowly and clearly to Micaiah while maintaining a safe distance and cover for everybody's safety. They should have used the helicopter when following Micaiah to avoid raising his anxiety levels, as seeing a parade of police cars chase my son just raised his anxiety level. They should have utilized time, remained in a safe, covered position while attempting to talk to Micaiah in a manner designed to lessen his anxiety, and so that we could have had a peace and safe self-surrender. Thank you so much, and again, I am in support of AB 268.
Thank you, Ms. Klopp, for being here and for testifying. I think I speak for all of us on this committee when I say that we know it is not easy for you, even though we don't know what it's like to be in your shoes, and so it means the world to us that you would take the time out of your day and to put yourself through this trauma again, just to help us understand the situation better. And so we're all grateful to you, and thank you.
Good afternoon, Kendra Birchie with the Washoe County Public Defender's Office. I want to start by thanking Susan for being here today, as Chair Scheibel said, to share her story of what had occurred. She has given me permission to share this, but for the committee's information, this Wednesday would have been Micaiah's 20th birthday. He was a Mother's Day baby, and so this week means especially a lot to her, and to having this bill heard this week I think is extremely important. And I do urge your support of this bill, not only for Micaiah and his mom Susan and their family, but more importantly for our community members. We truly believe that mental health is a public health crisis and not a police crisis, and it shouldn't require police intervention. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. And we task a lot on our police officers, including requiring them to respond to mental health calls without providing them with the appropriate tools. We believe that this bill will ensure that if officers are asked to be at a scene with someone who is suffering from a mental health crisis, they have those tools necessary to de-escalate the situation, to have crisis intervention tools in order to hopefully provide for better outcomes. If this bill does nothing but maybe save one person's life, then it will be worth it. Thank you.
John Pure for the record. Thank you, Chair. I think it's important to say, and say it often, that mental illness is a flaw in chemistry, not a flaw in character. And I think taking the time to address how somebody in a mental health crisis is responded to will go a long way towards protecting our community and protecting the officers who have to respond to these events. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel, members of the committee. My name is Troyce, T-R-O-Y-C-E, last Krumie, K-R-U-M-M-E. I am the Vice Chairman of the Las Vegas Police Managers and Supervisors Association. I represent the sergeants and lieutenants and captains of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We are here in support of this bill. The authority the police provided by law and the community to use force, from the lowest level of force to deadly force, is a responsibility that should not be taken lightly. All police agencies should have a responsibility to have written policies in place that outline clear guidelines regarding the application of force. The requirement for de-escalation practices should be the standard. Making every feasible attempt to a safe conclusion for all parties should be the goal of every law enforcer. As has been stated multiple times during this session and by lawmakers, including some of this room, a vast majority of the police agencies in our state are already meeting this mandate. The purpose of this bill is to memorialize those practices into law for those persons that come behind us to continue to meet this mandate. Thank you.
It looks like that's everybody we have to present a support testimony in person on AB 268, so we will go to support testimony on the phone on AB 268.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel. To testify in support on Assembly Bill 268, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in support on Assembly Bill 268, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. This is Chuck Calloway, representing the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. My name is spelled C-A-L-L-A-W-A-Y. Appreciate Assemblywoman Krasner working with us and reaching out to us regarding this bill even before the session started. We have had a written use of force policy on the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department since long before I was hired in 1989, and it's constantly updated and adapted to meet best practices. In fact, as recently as a few months ago, it was updated again, and it is available on our website along with related use of force information regarding our agency at lvmpd.com. Every officer that goes through our police academy currently receives CIT training. We were one of the first agencies in the country to have de-escalation as part of our use of force policy. So as was stated in the testimony, this bill doesn't change anything for our agency. It's how we're currently doing business, and we are here in support. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And if you've recently joined us this afternoon, we are currently on support testimony for Assembly Bill 268. If you'd like to provide support testimony at this time, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 346, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Hi, thank you very much for your time again, Chair Scheibel. and committee members. My name is Reverend Michael Willoughby, and I am the Tech Director with Battleborn Progress in Las Vegas, Nevada. Proud to be here today in support of Micaiah and Susan. I hope that those words from Susan haunt each and every single one of the ears that hear them. No mother should ever have to go through that, and no person should be on the receiving end of that treatment when they are in crisis. This is again another moment where the members of this committee and the members of the legislature have a moment where they can step up and do something unequivocally good. Please support this legislation and do something that will benefit those amongst us that need the help the most. Please do something for the most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last three digits, 556. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIEGRANT. My brother Thomas Purdy was murdered by Reno Police and Washoe County Sheriff's Office. During a mental health crisis, I support AB 268 as it's an attempt at transparency and accountability. Of course, each agency should have a use of force policy per fatalencounters.org 395 people, somebody's loved one, have died during interactions with police in Nevada since the year 2000. The number does not include those killed after booking at a jail or prison, perhaps non-combative, non-assaultive, non-aggressive. My 140-pound brother would not have been placed into a hog tie for 40 minutes by Reno PD and then asphyxiated by deputies. It's shocking. Washoe County Sheriff's Office claims they've had such great success not killing the mentally ill. They asphyxiated 3 men killed by police for asking for help during a mental health crisis. Perhaps head officers had this additional training. Micaiah Lee, Philip Serrano, Kenneth Stafford, Micah Abbey, Daniel Murillo, my brother Thomas Purdy, and so many others would be alive today. Watered down bills are not designed to prosecute the police, but rather to restore confidence in the public confidence in police. They are used to diffuse demands for prosecuting police brutality and minimize punishment for guilty cops. What families really want is true change, so no other families have to know this pain, and for our loved ones' killer to be held accountable. Honestly, until Graham v. Connor and Tennessee v. Garner overturned the whole reasonableness thing, and DAs prosecute police who use excessive force, murder, or kill due to negligence. This bill is just putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound, and the language in this bill mirrors the 2 SCOTUS cases I mentioned. For it to be reasonable, all the officer has to say is they feared for their life, and that's enough legally, even with this bill, to justify the shooting. I do believe they are trained extensively at the academy on this reasonable issue. 2019, California changed its use of force law. It changed the word reasonableness to necessary, and so many people are still being killed, so it's no surprise there isn't opposition from police to this bill. I can't speak to Washoe County, but Clark County, but in Washoe, if someone were to die by asphyxiation, Chris Hicks, DA, would not investigate like he does in OIS shooting deaths. My brother was a danger to nobody. If Reno PD asphyxiated my non-combative, non-aggressive, mentally ill brother and thought it was reasonable, I ask, what isn't reasonable in their eyes? It's clear the police are a far greater danger to the community and than the community is to them until we have laws that actually do not allow police to kill us without consequence. Forgive me for my skepticism. I do not, skepticism, nothing will change. I do support the bill moving forward, but not because I believe it will stop police from murdering without consequence or that it will reduce deaths at the hands of police. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits, 695. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is Holly Wellborn, HOLLYWEL, excuse me, BORN, Policy Director for the ACLU of Nevada. I'm sorry, I'm a little choked up from Susan's testimony. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And thank you to Assemblywoman Krasner for honoring the life of Micaiah Lee and for your willingness to do something to address this public health crisis. I'm brought to tears by that testimony, and also thinking about Assemblywoman Krasner's floor statement during his special session when the state, after 30 years, finally decided to ban chokeholds, and how moving that was, and how far this body has come in many ways. It's been a really tough year for the organization, and but I simply can't imagine what Susan has gone through. And anything that we can do to be of assistance, please reach out. I hope that this body will continue to move forward and improve this law, to move away from simply codifying existing policies, and that we can continue to work together to completely reimagine the role of policing in our communities and to invest in adequate mental health services and to get the right people responding to these types of calls for service. Again, thank you, Assemblywoman Krasner. Thank you, Susan, for your testimony. We encourage your support.
Thank you, caller. And if you've recently joined the meeting this afternoon, we are currently on support testimony for Assembly Bill 268. If you have recently joined and you would like to provide support testimony at this time, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 766. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Hi, yes, thank you. Senate Committee, my name is Matthew Wilkie, MattheWilkie. You've heard from Susan, Micaiah's mom. You've heard from so many other people here in Northern and then the Nevada region who've lost family members due to senseless violence. I truly do believe that if this bill could have been in effect in years prior, Micaiah very well could be alive with us today with proper training. I do believe that Thomas Purdy could be alive today with proper training. I do urge your support. Thank you, Susan, for everything that you do for the community, and I urge your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller. And with that, Chair Scheibel, there are no more callers to provide support testimony at this time.
Thank you so much. We will move to testimony in opposition to AB 268, and there's nobody here in the room to give opposition testimony, so we will go to the phones.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Assembly Bill 268, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on Assembly Bill 268, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 196. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Chair Scheibel and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I'm Eric Spratley, SPRATLEY, for the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. The Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association opposes this bill due to the presentation of it and the mischaracterization of our excellent law enforcement officers in Nevada, as well as the omission of some material facts in an effort to disparage the actions of officers in critical incidents. We oppose the Monday morning quarterbacking language of Section 3, wherein a reasonable person, a reasonable peace officer, quote unquote, sitting in a non-critical environment is reviewing and deciding the imminent threat of the officer in that moment and what they have determined. We do support good policies. We do support de-escalation. We do support crisis intervention training for all officers and the use of it. Law enforcement officers themselves spend the rest of their lives playing the shoulda game after a critical incident. There are many, many ways that critical incidents should have been handled, and they are very clear after the event to everyone second-guessing the actions of police. The officer facing the life and death situation before them should, in fact, be held accountable for their actions, yes. But legislating policy like this can place Nevada law enforcement officers in an improper response to a situation, and that can place innocent people and officers in harm's way. For that, we oppose the bill.
Thank you, caller. And if you've recently joined our meeting this afternoon, we are currently on opposition testimony for Assembly Bill 268. If you have recently joined and would like to provide opposition testimony at this time, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And Chair, at this time, there are no more callers to provide opposition testimony.
All right, we will move to testimony in neutral on AB 268. I don't see anybody in the committee room to give such testimony, so we will go to the phones.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel. To testify in neutral standing on Assembly Bill 268, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in the neutral standing on Assembly Bill 268, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 846, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Hello, my name is Adrian Lowry. It's ADRIAN LOWRY. I'm speaking in neutral because I like a lot of things in this bill, but I feel like it still needs more. That essentially, these are good things in the bill, but there is not enough about accountability when these things are violated. And we've seen in a lot of instances where the policy itself does not actually produce the outcome we're looking for. We need to have accountability when these policies are disregarded or broken. And then also I'd like to say that I do not like the framing that has been used sometimes to say, okay, these people are innocent victims. We don't want innocent people to be hurt, but it's all right for, people who are having a mental health crisis. They're apparently not innocent. It's all right for them to be harmed. It's really not okay. All right, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits, 647, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Thank you. My name is Nathaniel Phillips, NATHANIEL PHILLIPPS. I'm a resident of Las Vegas, and I'm also a fellow with the American Friends Service Committee Healing Justice Program. And we work on alternatives to incarceration and also police accountability. And I'm calling to say a couple of things. That one, that legislation like this is paramountly important. Nevada is the fourth highest in the nation for the rate of fatal encounters between residents and police officers. And we also know that on a national scale, folks who experience mental health crises like Micaiah, like myself, are 16 times likelier to be killed by police officers. Unfortunately, police officers should not be responding to individuals who are experiencing mental health crisis. In fact, there should be other systems in place that send trained and professional mental health experts who will interact with people with compassion and care. But at the very least, we should be mandating that all officers across the state have very clear guidelines on how to interact with all people. And the ultimate goal should be upholding the dignity of each individual's life. But I do have to say that in order to truly honor Micaiah Lee's life and the advocacy and of his mother, Susan, and the pain and anguish that she's gone through, it would take so much more than this piece of legislation. It would ultimately take a completely transformed approach to public safety. And it would take justice for Micaiah's life being taken from us. I think it's important to say that the officers in Micaiah's killing were previously involved in killing other residents One who was suffering a crisis of PTSD in his own backyard when his wife called for help and police officers showed up and ended his life as well. And it's important for legislators to be aware that after Ma'Khia's killing, communities had to engage in organizing and confrontation to elevate and raise the alarm about the lack of justice and accountability in this case. District Attorney Christopher Hicks was not going to release any of the body cam footage. It took months for the officer-involved shooting report to be released. Activists had to stage a die-in outside of the district attorney's office and stop traffic in order to get the most basic information about the killing of someone in our community. It's reprehensible, and I really implore legislators to hold not only killer cops, but also district attorneys and the criminal legal system that upholds all of this lack of accountability and lack of justice to account in Nevada. So this is only one small step towards that aim. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller. And for those of you that have just joined us this afternoon, we are currently on neutral testimony for Assembly Bill 268. If you'd like to provide neutral testimony at this time, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 142, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Barnett, Kailey Barnett. For the record, I believe that, like others have said on this call, that mental illness should be prioritized when a police officer is being called. As Nathaniel has put, Kenny Stafford was killed and he was suffering from PTSD. Ma'Khia Lee was killed and he was suffering from a mood disorder. His mother, Susan, shouldn't have to suffer and face this trauma that she is facing because a police officer killed somebody. This is a step in the right direction, but it's not nearly enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, caller. And with that, Chair Scheibel, there are no more callers to provide neutral testimony at this time.
All right, thank you so much. If you'd like to make any closing remarks, Assemblymember Krasner, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner for the record. So, as I stated before, I appreciate the help and support of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office and the Las Vegas Metro Police Department in putting this piece of legislation together and for their support of the legislation. My testimony has been exactly the same as it was in the Assembly as it is today in the Senate, except for the fact that we're asking for the bill to be put on a website if feasible. I don't control how anybody else testifies in support, neutral, or any other way on my bill. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions or work with anybody. But I do think that even though this is just a small step, even a small step in the right direction is called progress. And I would really appreciate your support of AB 268. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember. That concludes the hearing on AB 268. I will close this hearing and open the hearing on AB 182. You can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair and members of this hardworking committee. My name is Jill Tolles. For the record, I represent Assembly District 25. I just want to take a moment to say thank you for serving on this committee. I have served on Assembly Judiciary for 2 sessions, And I know firsthand just how weighty the topics are that you address in this committee. And I appreciate, on behalf of Nevada, your service. And so I'm here to present today Assembly Bill 182, which revises the elements relating to advancing prostitution. And I'd like to first start with talking a little bit about the background behind this bill and then walk through some of the various elements of the bill. For starters, last session, the legislature passed Assembly Bill 166, which created the definition for advancing prostitution and established penalties for the crime. The purpose of this bill was to hold accountable those who knowingly exploit individuals involved in sex trafficking. It is not my intention to rehear that bill from last session. This bill merely makes some technical changes in the implementation per the request of the Southern Nevada Human Trafficking Task Force and many of the stakeholders that helped. But just to review for the benefit of this committee, those who are new and those who are returning, Assembly Bill 166 addressed a loophole that we had in the law where we had certain establishments, for example, massage parlors or nail spas, or even in one case, a tax prep service, that in that case didn't have a computer or a file to be found, but had 8 beds and 11 women hiding in a back storage room. We saw cases and heard testimony of these individuals having their shoes locked up into cabinets, their IDs taken away from them, forced into inhumane conditions where truly some of the worst violations, human rights violations you could imagine, under threat and coercion to perform sex acts, where the business owner was running these establishments knowingly and yet could throw their hands up and say, you can't hold me accountable, they're independent contractors, and we lacked the ability to prosecute them under the law without victim testimony. So working with stakeholders, we came up with the legislation in AB 166 to provide a mechanism to hold those establishment owners accountable and to be able to convict them under this law. So the Southern Nevada Human Trafficking Task Force and other stakeholders from the Office of Attorney General, law enforcement, criminal justice representatives, victims, advocates, and businesses reached out to ask for this language that I'm presenting to you today. And I'm happy to thank all of them for their input and their support, as well as for the ability to come to this consensus language that I'm asking you to consider. So if I can run through briefly the summary of what Assembly Bill 182 seeks to accomplish. It refines the enforcement language of NRS 201.395 while maintaining the protections for those unknowingly engaged around this illegal activity. So to be more specific, if you look at section 1.1a, it clarifies that a person knows this illegal activity is being conducted if they have received written notice by law enforcement notifying them of at least one incident. Section 1.1a also removes the section pertaining to victims of involuntary servitude, because that is a Category B felony and therefore a higher standard than the crime of advancing prostitution at a Cat C felony. Section 1.3 removes the requirement that law enforcement must notify the individual 3 times and reduces it to 1 written notice. The 3 incidents requirement was too resource-intensive for law enforcement to implement, and I would challenge any of us to find any example of where you have to be warned 3 times of an illegal activity before taking steps to abate it in the law. Section 1.3c removes the abatement step of promoting ongoing education about such illegal prostitution for employees. And the reason for this was it just made it too easy for a business to simply hang a poster as a defense for taking steps to abate this illegal activity. I want to point out, because it's always important whenever we discuss anything in relation to this topic, that the focus of AB 182 is not to arrest the victims or sex workers. We have made a substantial effort to promote victim-centered training for law enforcement. And I'm grateful to the public defenders for expressing a neutral stance on this measure. I'm also grateful for all the support from the Retail Association, the Nevada Resorts Association, and others, in addition to the stakeholders in crafting this legislation. I'd also like to acknowledge the chair for reaching out with solutions and offering an amendment that really, I think, captures in many ways the intent of wanting to make sure that this really is going after the bad actors and not after the victims themselves. I have not had a chance to review this with all the stakeholders, and knowing how much work had been put into the final language, I want to make sure that I get that input, but I'm very hopeful to continue to work through that with the chair and any other members. The last thing I would like to make note is that I do plan on bringing forward an amendment to add Senator Pat Spearman to this legislation. She also wanted to join on as co-sponsor, and certainly would welcome any other members of the committee who are not already joined on as co-sponsors as well. With that, I'd like to conclude my introductory remarks and offer that Alyssa Engler, Senior Deputy Attorney General with the Office of the Attorney General, is here to help answer questions, as well as Jennifer Noble with Washoe County District Attorney's Office, and Lieutenant Nate Chio with Las Vegas Metro Police Department, in addition to the many other supporters, stakeholder supporters who will be calling in. With that, I conclude, and I'm open to any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Are there questions I see some questions already from members of the committee. Go ahead, Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. We had a similar bill earlier and it had a 200-room cap in it to protect, frankly, the bigger resorts. Is there a cap of any sort in this one?
Thank you for the question through you, Chair, to Senator Hansen. There is no cap, and I will note that actually the Nevada Resort Association came forward in support and helped with this legislation, so they are in support of being included.
Good. I mean, I'm amazed by that, because prostitution is very open in the big casinos in Clark County. I mean, they pass out, at least last time, I haven't been there in 10 years, so I don't know if it's so true anymore, but they passed out brochures and you could pick the girl you want, and it's going on right in front of these big major casinos. So if that's true and they know those brochures and so forth are being passed out, could Caesars Entertainment and MGM and those types be prosecuted under this law?
Thank you through you, Chair, to Senator Hansen. And I don't know that I could speak to advertisements in and of themselves. That might be a First Amendment issue, and I dare to walk into that. I would rather defer to legal representatives or counsel. But what I will say is that one of the things that I'm most proud of is to see the shift across our state in recognizing that this is an issue, and that this is something that we need to tackle, that there are gross injustices and abuses that are occurring. And I'm quite proud of partnering with the Resort Association in recognizing that and in tackling it. So I'd like to again commend them for really taking this on as a priority. They have made that as a decision over the last couple years to address these issues.
Good. I'm all for it. I supported the other bill, and I resented the fact that there was a 200-room cap in the bill to protect some of these same people that apparently are okay with this one. So be interested to see how this one plays out. But, you and I have discussed this several times, and the reality is that, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. That mentality has, in fact, encouraged things like street prostitution and so forth. And I think it's been winked at for years by some of the big players in these areas, because it's one of the, frankly, attractions for certain people to come to Las Vegas. So I would love to see this pass and see it actually enforced, and be really intrigued to come back in a few years and see how effectively it's been enforced on these bigger properties, especially where this sort of stuff has been pretty rampant. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions from members of the committee? I don't see any other questions, so we will move to testimony in support of AB 182. I don't see anybody in the room to give support, so we'll go directly to the phones, please.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel. To testify in support on Assembly Bill 182, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in support on Assembly Bill 182, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 196, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. I'm Eric Spratley, S-P-R-A-T-L-E-Y, the Executive Director of the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. We are here in full support of Assembly Bill 182. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits, 969. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the Senate Committee. My name is Brian Wachter, B-R-Y-A-N-W-A-C-H-T-E-R, with the Retail Association of Nevada. We too are in favor of the bill. We want to thank Assemblywoman Tolles for bringing this forward, and we urge your support of AB 182.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits, 122. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Again, good afternoon, Chair Scheibel, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Katie Ryan, K-A-T-I-E-R-Y-A-N, and I'm System Director of Nevada Government Relations for Dignity Health St. Rose Dominican and a member of the Nevada Policy Council on Human Trafficking. For the sake of brevity, I have provided a letter of support for AB 182 to the committee on behalf of St. Rose and just wanted to thank Assemblywoman Tolles for her continued work on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits, 916. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Thank you. My name is Nathan Chio, N-A-T-H-A-N-C-H-I-O. I'm a lieutenant for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department with the Special Investigations Section to provide testimony in support of AB 182. I would like to thank Assemblywoman Jill Tolles for sponsoring this legislation. The Special Investigations Section battles human trafficking by targeting commercial businesses who operate as fronts for illegal brothels. SIS has done numerous investigations on businesses which are advertised as massage parlors, massage alcohol services, reflexology, party supply stores, and nail salons who are in reality illegal brothels. One of our biggest challenges is the plausible deniability that owners of these businesses invoke as they place the blame squarely on the human trafficking victims, even as they have a history of operating these types of businesses. These individuals effectively gain the monetary gains from the illegal activities, but share none of the risk of prosecution. Also, AB 182 will dissuade straw owners from allowing bad actors to use their information to open a place of business or lease a property without knowing what is really going on at that business or property. We have several cases where the listed owner has no idea what the manager or employee is doing at their business, but continue to open businesses in this manner just the same. AB 182 will give Nevada law enforcement an effective tool to hold those persons responsible who perpetuate the cycle of victimization for human trafficking, commercial businesses, and other properties. Thank you, and we hope you will all support AB 182.
Thank you, caller. And if you've recently joined the meeting this afternoon, we are currently on support testimony for Assembly Bill 182. If you'd like to provide support testimony at this time, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 047. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. Again, my name is Lauren Boytel, Lauren Boytel, and I am the chair of the Nevada Policy Council on Human Trafficking. Want to echo previous support comments of this bill and thank Assemblywoman Tolles for her continued leadership in strengthening Nevada's human trafficking legislation, punishing bad actors, and supporting victim survivors. We have provided a letter of support with further comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And once again, if you've recently joined us, we are currently on support testimony for Assembly Bill 182. If you'd like to provide support testimony at this time, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And Chair, at this time, there are no more callers to provide support testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Kyle. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if there was anybody on Zoom who wanted to provide support testimony. So I will ask now if anybody on Zoom wants to provide testimony in any position. Maybe you could just let me know now so that we can plan for it.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel, members of the committee. Is it okay if I just put my support on the record right now?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Jennifer Noble, Jennifer, and LBLE on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. And for the sake of brevity, I will just say that we support this legislation and thank Assemblywoman Toles for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Scheibel and members of the committee. My name is Alyssa Engler, ALISSA-ENGLER. I am a Senior Deputy Attorney General with the Office of the Nevada Attorney General, as well as the Nevada Children's Advocate. On behalf of Attorney General Aaron Ford and myself, we offer our support for AB 182 and thank Assemblywoman Toles for bringing this bill forward.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else on Zoom to give testimony? I am not seeing anybody, so I'm going to move on to testimony in opposition to AB 182. I don't see anybody in the room, so I will ask Mr. Kyle to go to the phones, please.
Thank you so much, Chair Scheibel. To testify in opposition on Assembly Bill 182, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on Assembly Bill 182, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 846, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Hello, my name is Adrian Lowry. That is ADRIAN-LOWRY. I want to speak in opposition to this bill because I'm concerned about the negative effect this will have on women who choose to engage in sex work. First of all, there's no societal benefit to putting women in jails and prisons for engaging in sex work. Many sex workers are in precarious positions where they are not able to do other work due to disability, discrimination, or economic conditions. Instead of punishing women and putting them into prisons where they will experience more trauma and violence, we should make it so there are more opportunities for women to make the decision to work in other fields and adequately support women who are not able to work. This bill requires people to assist the police in criminalizing women in sex work, and I feel that is an incredibly immoral thing to do. How can you ask owners of buildings and businesses to affirmatively subject women to the violence of criminal arrest in prison? I cannot support violence against women, and I would not comply with this law if in that position. Can you explain why somebody is liable for criminal consequences because they hold a moral conviction that they refuse to enact violence against women? Second, this law does not prevent women from doing sex work. The only thing that is achieved is that women are driven from safer environments into doing their work in locations that are much more dangerous. If we care about the health and safety of these women, then we should not make it so they can only do their work. We should make it so they can do their work in safety and not under conditions where they're likely to be attacked or killed. We should not support something that will harm women. There are too many women being killed like this. Many people denigrate and reduce these women because they disagree with the choices they've made. These women do not deserve to be harmed. They deserve the same safety, health, and happiness as any other women. I ask you to please support women instead of criminalizing them, but against this bill and any other bill that criminalizes women. Work instead on bills that support women. Don't put women in prison. Support women. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And with that, Chair Scheibel, there are no more callers to provide opposition testimony at this time.
All right, thank you so much. We will move then to testimony in the neutral position. I don't see anybody in the room to give neutral testimony, so we will go to the phones, please.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in the neutral standing on Assembly Bill 182, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in neutral on Assembly Bill 182, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 887, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel, members of the committee. Corey Solferino, C-O-R-E-Y, last of Solferino, S as in Sam, O-L, F as in Frank, E-R-I-N-O. I tried to testify in support, however, it wouldn't let me, so I'm here in the neutral position, but wanted to pledge the Washoe County Sheriff's Office full support of AB 182 and thank Assemblywoman Tolles and the other bill sponsors for their tireless efforts in assisting law enforcement with combating human and sex trafficking. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Lieutenant Solferino.
Thank you, caller. And if you...
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask that the record reflect that he was calling in support. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Kyle.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel. I apologize for the interruption. If you have recently joined the call this afternoon, we are currently on neutral testimony for Assembly Bill 182. If you'd like to provide neutral testimony at this time, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And with that, Chair Scheibel, there are no more callers to provide neutral testimony at this time.
All right, thank you. That concludes the testimony on AB 182. Unless the sponsor has any closing remarks, then I will close the meeting on AB 182. That takes us to the last item on our agenda, public comment. I don't see anybody present in the room to give public comment, so we will go to the phones, please.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel. We are currently on public comment this afternoon. If you would like to provide public comment at this time, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, we're currently on public comment, and if you'd like to provide public comment at this time, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 196, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. I'm Eric Spratley, S-P-R-A-T-L-E-Y, the Executive Director of the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association, here in public comment since it was stated during earlier testimony that this association supported Assembly Bill 251 and the changes to juvenile justice. This association does not support that bill, as by and large we support the juveniles being held accountable for their actions, but we stayed out of any testimony on the bill as a courtesy to the presenter. Since we were inappropriately claimed to be in support, we needed to make it known on the record that despite repeated questions to support certain legislation, if we do not support it, we do not support it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last 3 digits, 556, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Anne Marie Grant, A-N-N-E-M-A-R-I-E-G-R-A-N-T, sister of Thomas Purdy, who was murdered by Reno Police in Washoe County Sheriff's Office during a mental health crisis, hog-tied for over 40 minutes and then asphyxiated to death. I'd like to tell you about Washoe County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Jason Wood, who is on administrative leave for his second DUI. Sergeant Wood was arrested for DUI on April 30th. And booked into the county jail. Wood was arrested for DUI previously in March of 2016 and was sentenced to complete 9 hours of DUI school and attend a victim impact panel. He faced no apparent repercussions from the sheriff's office. In August of the same year, Sergeant Wood initiated the traffic stop of Kyle Zimbelman that resulted in the officer-involved shooting of Kyle and his death. In 2017, Wood released his canine on a man surrendering to police. The video of the attack of the community member went viral and cost the taxpayers of Washoe County, who have to always foot the bill for bad behavior of law enforcement. Sergeant Wood also shot and killed Robert Hampton III on 11/5/2014, and another death of a community member at the hands of police at Washoe. DA Chris Hicks dragged his feet on releasing the report. The report was released 5/26/2016, 568 days later. Balaam knew of Wood's past when he took office in 2018, but what did he do? Promote a bad cop to sergeant Baron Balaam recently said it's past time we hold law enforcement officers who tarnish our profession and oath accountable for deplorable actions. It's time for him to do that. In his own department, I'd like to mention the family of 36-year-old Ronald Zendejas was killed by Sparks. He was killed 5/4/2020 by Sparks Police, and his family and the community are still waiting for DA Chris Hicks reporting on the body cam footage. Please support bills that promote transparency and accountability, and my heart goes out to Susan Micaiah's mother. It really is re-traumatizing, especially with yesterday being Mother's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And with that, Chair Scheibel, there are no more callers to provide public comment at this time.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes our meeting for today. Please be on the lookout. We may be changing some of our meeting times a little bit earlier later during the week to accommodate other committees that go after us being able to hear their full schedules as well. So my committee staff, as always, are rock stars in communicating with your staff, and we will try to get that information out to you as early as possible so as to not catch anybody off guard. But I did want to let you know not to be alarmed if you see a changing meeting time later in the week. And of course, for both members of the committee and also members of the public who may wish to testify or be present, feel free to reach out to me if you have any concerns about those changes. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow, probably at 1 o'clock. And until then, we are adjourned.